we're here. So on your screen, to have the best experience in Zoom, in case this is new for you, if you look at the top right, if you click on speaker view, it's just me speaking or whoever will be speaking. If you click gallery view, it feels like we're in the same room for a second, and I'll be a little smaller. The slides will be smaller. So when the slides come on, if you want to change your speaker view, that might be helpful and improve your viewer experience as much as you possibly can. If you'll notice, just take note of where your mute button is, because if we do engage, you'll want to know where that is in the bottom left-hand corner. You are free to screenshot any of the graphics that we shared tonight. If there's anything that resonates that you want a little screenshot of, feel free to do that. There may be some people joining that don't have video as well. So if you look at, if you see somebody up there and you want to just see the faces, there's three little buttons in a blue square in the top right of everybody's video. If you can see those, and you can choose to hide non-video participants if you don't want to see those. If you don't have rights to do that, it could just be the version of Zoom you're using, but that will improve your experience of being here.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh, great. Okay, I found the button.
Awesome, fantastic. And I'm going to remove the chime. I don't know if you can hear the chime, but we're gonna get rolling here. Awesome, only I can hear it. Fantastic. Great. Awesome. So welcome everybody. We are here. I'm so excited. It's fun for me to talk about this course in GAP and Jean while Jean's in the room. And so Jean, give a big wave. We're so excited. The author of The Art of Feeding Heroes, which everybody should have a couple copies of on their bookshelf, because it's always appropriate to hand them out, like literally on a daily basis. I'm like, I think you need this book. It's one of my favorite leadership books. I'm so compelled to chase Jean around the globe and talk about this and help her talk about it, because it's so profoundly impacted my journey. Jean has impacted my journey over the last 20 years. But what you'll find, as in what we're doing tonight, getting really into this text, is there's so much common sense, usable leadership strategies, really great relationship tips that anybody can apply to improve their experience as a human and increase their impact. Like, it's written in story, like it's accessible. It's not so high above our heads that we're trying to learn things in a way that is incomprehensible. Anybody, your mom, can understand what we're talking about, which is really valuable and really meaningful. So I'll just start with that. And I'm going to go ahead and open. We're going to move through some slides here, but we are going to do actually a little group sharing. So there will be a point where I'm going to hit the breakout room button, and you're going to get to talk to each other, because I think this is always better when we're connecting. So there will be an opportunity to do that later. So if you are on here and not on video, it will still automatically put you in a room, so enjoy connecting, even if you weren't expecting it. But we will get to there at a point, so you can just prepare yourself for that. Okay, awesome. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Can you see my images of all of you while I share the screen? Okay, I'm sorry I can't remove that, because I like to see your faces when I'm talking. But we're on this journey tonight. We're going to be talking about the hero within us. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, but I put this image here it's like a telescope, really, but really it's just a viewfinder really on the base somewhere, I'm sure. But when you look through this lens that we're going to do tonight, I just want you to try on the fact that this could shift a lot of the things that are happening for you in your world. Like, whatever new way that we start thinking about things tonight, just imagine that it's going to land and impact an area of your life, and there's no accident that you're here. So just try that on for a second. Like, oh, I might learn something that's going to shift something. I might see something in a new way. We are talking about the Feed Your Hero online course. We'll get to that at the end, but we're really going to unbox the heart of why this is even in existence tonight. So it's not going to be like a webinar where I'm taking you through all the regular things. Like, we're going to have a conversation about why this work lives, and why it lives every decade, and why it's been so potent and so powerful year after year, and thousands of people corral and come together and want to be a part of this amazing Gap community. There's something inside here that I don't even want to use the word demand, but people are drawn to it. It's a living, breathing work. If you don't know me, I am Kate Pintor. I'm a strength strategy certified coach, and I'm the online director for Gap, which just means I like to take what Gap's doing and make it accessible for anyone to have access to it. So creating tools, coordinating the resources that are already there just to enhance the experience and to create more aftercare for those that are a part of Gap Community's live trainings. So that's my commitment in this process. So we're here, we're actually co-creating tonight, whether or not you believe it or not, or whether you can figure out what your role is in this evening. We're all here, everybody that is here is co-creating, just your presence here on the call. And so I would just love to remind you to just be here, remove distractions, unless it's the 4-year-old banging on the door behind you, which may happen every once in a while. And also, showing up. So I love that everybody here is on video, but if other people come on, I just want to encourage you to turn your video on and just be seen as we're having this conversation. Maybe mute your cell phones if you have one nearby, or your computer. And you may want paper and a pen or your screenshot button on the computer, whatever you're using. There might be some things, little takeaways that could have value for you later. So you can get up and go get something if you need to. Please mute your microphone so that, and I may mute you also, but if you mute it during this first part, the recording will be better, which all of you will receive. And connect. So if you want to talk to each other, use the chat box, you can connect. And because I'm here and I'm a strengths coach, I just want to encourage you to put your strengths in the chat box, because a lot of you met me through that door. So let's just begin engaging. Go ahead and use the chat box and tell us who you are. A little bit about yourself. You can add your strengths if you want to. And I'm going to ask Caitlin, who's under Gap Community, and her little name there, if you would monitor the chat box for me on the call, just in case I'm missing something, and interrupt me if need be. Excellent. Look at the teamwork. So before we begin, before I teach any class, I love to bring the Johari window back, because this is happening all the time. And so I need your partnership in this, because there's things that you see that I see, like even in terms of the slide. There's things that you see about your life, about your vision, about your journey. I don't know your relationship to this work, or Jean, or we don't know how we all know each other or don't know each other. So there's things that we just don't see. And then there's things that are just hidden to both of us, all of us. Like, we don't know what other purpose there is in us gathering. If it was a divine appointment, we're not sure necessarily what that is. So we want to kind of come in with an openness of our mind. The things that I'm seeing and learning, and Jean is here also, we want to share with you in that capacity. And then your contribution to that, the gift of who you are, is also welcome here. Also, in having these deeper conversations about life, you'll notice I haphazardly added a few more red rings, Jane, after we were talking about how many panic zones are there. Exactly. I'll try to move this to the side so you can see it. At first, I just had a panic zone on the outside, but anytime we're talking about transformation or growth, in terms of what mindset am I going to bring to this space, I love to encourage people to jump into that growth zone, which requires some non-judgment. But really, most of us, especially when we're in a group of people that we don't know, we're on a call we've never been to, we have some secret stuff going on. Some of you have some deep personal pain that you're going through, some business stresses, some work things happening. And then there's a comfort zone around that of like, I kind of want some things to shift. I'm not sure if I want to talk about it with these people, so I'm just going to be polite. And then to come into no judgment about myself, because when I'm telling myself, hey, I should speak up more, instantly judgment comes in, or I should speak less, just to give that one example. To get through there is a little edge, that little edge of like heart flutter or panic, varying levels depending on who you are coming into that space. And then to stretch and really engage and own my engagement and participation, and own the outcome of whatever I'm participating in life, whatever training or anything else that is. Coming into that growth zone, there's like another little edge of that, of commitment, maybe some rigor and support from other people to help me get in there and stay in there. And also just want to remember that you are responsible like for yourself in that you have permission to be wherever you are on here. That's all you. I'm not going to determine which zone you're operating from in any conversation. You get to pick where you are, and I promise you're going to move in and out. And I'm going to keep encouraging you to stretch into that blue zone, and you have permission to shrink and expand as you need to and navigate your own personal well-being through it. So you are at choice. So I hope this visual is helpful. And now you're like, what the heck are we going to do? But I feel like you should be screenshotting this and using it in your training, because it's really actually happening all the time. But when you start to become aware of when you lean in and lean out, it's a really powerful component. So you're welcome to screenshot it. If you want to have a copy of it, I will align them a little better and hand it to you. Excellent. So let's begin here. I feel like I'm skipping one component that I'd like to talk about here. Hold on just a moment. Okay, there we go. So you are on a journey. Let's just start with that. We're on a journey, and at some point you figured out on the path of life that you did not have it all figured out. Who's with me? I thought I had some things figured out, and yet, yeah, evidently I did not. And so there probably were some unexpected roadblocks. Some of those roadblocks were you and me. Like we have stopped ourselves in different components of that. Sometimes we got hurt, and sometimes we've hurt others. So what our brain does in this unconsciously to us is it categorizes these moments. It stores beliefs and stories in our mind as a reference point about what this journey is going to be in the future. We're using the past to predict the future. It's autopilot unconsciously until we do something else. So inside of that space, I remember as a younger person, I didn't just do this unconsciously. Like I literally had a rule book of like the rules of life and these things and why I don't do that. And literally this entire, like I had a list in my journal of the 10 commandments of Caitlin. And this is how life works. And to anchor me, because I was always feeling like I was in the panic zone. But most of that stuff, even though I thought I had those rules down, it was really, there was so much more happening underneath the surface, perhaps 95% more unconscious to me than conscious. And those beliefs that we have, those unconscious beliefs, are still guiding us. And often in our lives, they're telling us in this voice to play a small game. So you have this one part of you that knows you're made for more. And then some really helpful, rational advice that's actually unhelpful, that's telling you to pull back into that comfort zone. It's telling you, perhaps, is this as good as it gets? Probably. And the question is it? Like, do you really feel that it is? So there is an unlived life within us. This is a quote. It's a quote that I always pull from Jean's book, but it is from The War of Art, which is an excellent read. Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. And between the two stands resistance. To yield to resistance deforms our spirit. It stunts us and makes us less than we are and we're born to be. It prevents us from achieving the life God intended when He endowed each of us with our own unique genius. In that space of where our genius lives, our genius needs a vision. And without a compelling vision, it's really hard to know which voices to listen to. So how many of you have ever introduced yourself to your inner critic? Jean and Nathan, one of the trainers at GAP, were talking about naming them. So have you named the inner critic? It's, in our work, oftentimes we name all of our strengths. We give all of them like a second name and a personality. But there's this place of really, without that compelling vision, it's really hard to know what's good advice, because that rational advice that you're getting that's telling you to play small is so accurate. It's based on that past, so it feels so true. It feels so true. But depending on what voice you listen to inside your head, most people navigate towards a vision at some point, but they stop along the way and they turn around when it gets too painful, they feel exposed, or when they see a less than ideal image of themselves in the process. Because we actually really like it when we're looking good. And we don't look so good, or we get evidence of the fact that other people are not seeing us in this glory. It's hard to swallow at times until you just make friends with the fact that that's always there, whether you're looking at it or not. You're awesome and not awesome all of the time. So the vision is the only way to really tell that apart. Also, in this process of moving towards our vision, we also stop ourselves because we carry an armor to avoid the pain of being human. Because when we find out that people are noticing how human we are, we want to pull back from the non-judgment zone. Like, we don't know how to stay in that space oftentimes. It's like something has to be cultivated and developed. There has to be some other positive voices and an anchor to God to like counter that, like in who he says you are, because the world has a certain opinion of it, and you certainly are not always you're either really promoting yourself on some other level, and we're in fantasy of that, or you're making yourself a villain in the process. So we can kind of pendulum between the two of those. I'm amazing and I'm the worst person in the world. Both of those, and probably a little bit of all of it. And so that armor can look like busyness, it can look like business, it can look like anxiety, it can look like pain, although we don't want to admit it, the pain always wins. It can look like comfort, it can look like positivity. So armor for each of us is different depending on our strengths, our story, our preferred strategies, but the armor's there. And it's again helping you to stay back in that comfort zone. I love this picture of Jean. We had this series done for our Awaken Your Hero retreat. And here's a quote, this is a quote that I keep up on my board. The fact is, dreams catch us with our armor off. You're going to have a moment and that armor's coming down. And it could be because you're going after a vision or a dream. It could be because of inspiration and suddenly you feel vulnerable giving your gift out into the world. But that armor's coming down in some capacity. You're not capable of holding it up there with all of that energy and accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And we can't avoid our humanness. Like, you're always going to be human. It's something you have to make friends with or take it out to lunch, which is what Jean says in the book, I think. So to come into that space of like, what is my vision? I want to like bring it back into something really personal. So a vision, yes, we often collapse vision and goal together, but for the purpose of our conversation here, let's think about our vision for relationships. In fact, I want you to pick a primary relationship that you have a vision for. So think of somebody in your mind, just one relationship that you would like to improve this year. And I hesitated to use the word improve. I tried a few words and I'm like, is it transform a relationship in this year? But really, when you have a commitment to a person, a relationship, a structure that you have for that, can it be done in 2020? Yes, but it's like, am I in this journey with them? Am I willing to level up in this relationship for the year? So we'll use the word improve because we're going to do a little measurement for the sake of our conversation, but pick something that's, large enough for you to say that you'd like a shift moving forward. Does everybody have somebody in mind you're thinking about? Okay. So inside of this, we're going to actually move and we're going to do a little breakout section for a second. And here is what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to actually write their name. There's something really powerful about writing the name down. I'm doing it too. I do not have a neuroscience statistic here, but trust me, there is one. The power of writing it through the pen. Probably, Jean, you could pull one out of your head. But there's something really powerful about acknowledging the name and writing it in ink in your own hand. Do you feel your energy change as you're doing that? Some of you are like having some emotions around this and the longing that might be revealed behind that. Awesome. Okay, I'm just checking the chat box for a second. Yes. So I also want you to think about, and this is what you're going to be sharing when we divide into our groups, what's occurring that you would like to shift. So what's a symptom or an experience that you're having in that relationship that you'd like to shift? Now I want you to consider for a second that this not be necessary behavior management, like I want them to stop doing this and I want them to do this, because this isn't about them, this is about you at this moment. So what kind of feeling would you like to have? What kind of beingness would you like to create? So for instance, if there's frequent disconnect or you're two ships in the night with your spouse and you like to be on the same page and feel like a team, like to experience joy or connection. If there's anger or bitterness and you'd like to change that, what do you want to change it to? You can use your own words. There's no right or wrong with this, but we do want to just take a moment and talk about this relationship. And what would the result of that shift be? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to divide us up. So I'm going to, for a moment, stop the screen and open the breakout rooms. You're automatically going to be shifted into, let's see, we're gonna, I think it's gonna put 2 people in per room. And let's see. Okay. So this is going to be random. Okay. Awesome. So I'm opening all the rooms. We're going to be in there for 5 minutes. So after 2, I'm going to give you a second to reduce the awkwardness of being in a room with somebody you don't know. You're going to be really excited when you see this, how it all laid out. So I'm just letting you know, you're going to be thrilled. It's perfect. And when you get in there, you'll have 5 minutes. So we're going to split that time in half. But I'll just give you a little message when it's halfway through the time. You'll notice a little comment coming through, and you can engage those questions. So you're moving. What relationship is it? I'm moving from this to this, and the impact of that will be what. But you can have that conversation any way you'd like. Have a mutual exchange. Setting the timer for 5 minutes. I'm pausing the recording. Welcome back. Okay. Excellent. It automatically removes everybody to come back in, so we'll just give them a second. If they weren't able to figure it out, it will close it without them.
Oh, they have to log in.
So it tells them it's over, and in a minute it'll automatically add them, and it's just welcome back. Here we are. Awesome. Isn't it much better connecting with the people that you're having these conversations with? Like, how many noticed that personal space of like just being with that relationship? How many of you noticed your energy shifting in relationship to those questions? Yeah, it's fantastic. Go ahead and share in the chat box any thoughts or anything else that you're reflecting on, if you're sitting on any of your words or emotion or whatever happened, because I wasn't in there, I'm not sure. But if there's anything you would like to say, please use the chat box to do so. And we're going to keep going. And what you're thinking right now is part of our journey here. So feel free to be generous with your words, because what you're contributing to that space, if you're having some thoughts, some feelings, or anything else, because those are just 2 of the things that you could have out of many different experiences, share them with each other. Let's go on this journey together. Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. Dun, dun, dun. I love this quote from the book. Considering the vision you have for that relationship, sometimes I think about my historical vision for my relationships, like what I had thought that it might be. I actually, when I was creating this slide, I had the word had, like you had for that relationship, like it's a past tense thing. And I needed a moment to be able to be in the present tense as this is possible, because the quote I was adding here was that exists in the future. And I really wanted to use my rearview mirror to determine even if that vision is still possible, or I had already made up that it wasn't, so I'm behaving accordingly with the amount of belief I have for that vision of how that could work out. But your vision does exist in the future. So the future that you see possible. And if you can't see it yet, sharing it, even sharing that doubt in this conversation like I'm doing right now, being honest and vulnerable about that human experience of like it's hard to hold that future tense when we're not sure if it can actually happen, if it's a reality. So let's just keep going in this space, but just acknowledge that for yourself. If you're noting it, notice your thoughts. You know, maybe this is a journaling point for you later to even look at that. Am I living this so that works out? You know, how am I relating inside of the context of this relationship? My second question for you is really about thriving. Like, is that relationship thriving? Because I can tell you for myself, like, this is what I thought it could be, but I'm like, here is good enough. Like, right here is awesome because it's not what it used to be. So right here is like, boom, that's a 6. 6s are awesome. It's a great number. But I want you to be honest for a second and look at it. Like, is that relationship thriving? Are you thriving in it? What does that look like on a scale to 1 to 10? Just give a little awesome number down there, whatever it is. Don't judge it. If you were working with a team or you're leading a team or you're noticing you picked somebody that you work with, I recommend that you do a number and just assess that in yourself of a myriad of relationships that you're working with. Are those relationships thriving? Look at what your belief is, what's your internal conversation about those that you're doing relationship and life with. The next question I have is if that number went up 3 points, maybe 2 points, in the next 6 weeks, like literally in the next 6 or 7 weeks, what would be happening if you were thriving more? What's the evidence that thriving is happening if we just move the needle a little bit? Go ahead and write that down or put it in the chat box. What's the evidence that would be happening? The way that I'm asking you this question, this is, you know, when we do executive coaching, we ask everything in this term of like view it first, look back. I mean, but there's something about doing it with your personal life in the realm of where your heart space is. You're going to notice it starts touching in deeply into some other areas of your heart, maybe longings that you've had, complaints. This is another great quote from Jean in the book. Love itself, it demands a stand, a reordering of priorities, of personal comfort, of the overwhelming need for certainty, both in our circumstance as well as in others. I'm making myself a note because there's 2 periods there, and that's one. So just hold on. Of the overwhelming need for certainty, both in our circumstance as well as in others. So I will predict, like if I knew that 6 could be a 9, I'm going to reorder in a certain way. If I'm not sure if it's possible in 6 weeks for that 6 to be a 9, maybe that feels stretching it. Can it be an 8? What's an 8? But just notice how you relate to it. It's actually not finding the right numbers. It's really just a chance for you to assess yourself and see what is. Because if you don't know where you are and where you are in this relationship, it's really hard to do anything different if you don't have that level of awareness. So the question that evolves just from this little line of inquiry is really, what are you standing for? Are you standing on hope for that relationship, for those relationships? What are you standing for? What are you standing for? Some of that language, when you're like, I don't know what a stand is yet, well, that's okay. We got you. That's why we're here. Let me see if I can move these pictures out of the way here for a second. I want to do a little check-in with what you're hearing me say. We're talking about entering into our suffering and our emotions. We're talking about having a purpose. We want more joy in our life, or we want to thrive. So we're using all of these words. So what we would imagine is that if we start out with a very clear purpose, there's connection there, there's hope, probably some grit. As we said, there's going to be tension and a panic zone that we have to go through every once in a while. Probably going to need some support for that. There's some forgiveness, ownership of impact, boom, and joy. Yes, wouldn't that be awesome? And then look down below and we're like, this is little internal chaos happening to me right now. I've been trying not to feel that. Maybe that relationship's a 3 and I've been trying not to feel that. I've been numbing it. I have a really awesome Netflix marathon game, or other ways of avoiding whatever that is or isn't. There might be drama in my life There might be crisis after crisis because I love it. There might be a lot of people that I'm helping. I'm trying to help a lot of people, so I don't have time for myself. So there's a little chaos from that. And then there's my story, the husband who left, all of the different things. I have a lot of blame and things that happened that other people did to me over the years. So we look at this, and this little space on here is pretty messy at the bottom. Which line do we want to be on inside of there to end up with bitterness or joy? But this is actually more accurate. The top line is really a fantasy because we're human. And when you're embracing your hero and feeding your hero, you have that revelation that, oh yeah, there's clarity of purpose. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not talking to you today. And I'm abdicating some responsibility over here. And wow, my judger just went off. And I'm like trying to take those judgments and throw them overhead, but then I might need them later. And because that's how we relate to each other. And there's all of this stuff. So like that top line, it looks so pretty. And if I just follow this path, it's going to be awesome, right to joy. And the reality is no, because I am all of this every day, all the time. I have grit, and I love to blame people. And I love joy, and I love forgiveness. And there's things I haven't quite forgiven. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with my anger. All of those, it's just part of that human journey. I'm not sure how to reconcile my human emotional context and my vision and these people that I love, that I would lay my life down for. And there's no certainty of them shifting. That's the human journey. That's the heroic journey that we are all on, whether we embrace it or not. That is what it is for all of us. Heroism is the spirit with which you engage that circumstance. Heroes are the ones who willingly enter into their own suffering as part of the journey. They are therefore unafraid to enter into the suffering of others. There's nothing superficial or shiny about the journey. It's about grit and love, the dirt and glory. That, I don't know, what do you think when you see that right in the chat box? Like when you see that, you're like, I want the cleaner, certain path. Just give me 10 steps. 10 steps. It's like, yeah, it's step 10, step 2, step 5, step 1, step 1, step 1, step 0. That's been my journey. And showing up for all of it, right? Showing up for all of it. Heroes are not two-dimensional images of perfection. So then we imagine that Jean has this squared out because she wrote this book. So she obviously doesn't go through the emotional turmoil because she knows how to talk about it. So therefore she suffers less by now. And her journey is that top line, right? But humans are fully human, light and shadow, and they're present here with an eye to the realm of that spirit and knowing that any moment can be an opportunity to presence, love, courage, humility. It is getting up again and again without losing sight of why you started in the first place. That is the heroic. And in the journey, if I can just, I have to own what you see online every day. Like we're entering in with Gap. We're creating a first online course and launching that out there. And we know that you're bombarded with transformational courses that are for the most part giving you additional skills, but what they're all training you to do, there's so much money in surviving. I cannot tell you, there's over $2 billion in surviving. And where those numbers go over the next 5 years as other kinds of things are coming in, there's a lot of money in survival because our strategies are complex and we want to learn about them and we want to engage. We want to get better skills and all of these things, but ultimately, does that help us embrace more of the human? Yeah, for sure, sometimes. But you need to know, like behind the curtain, and I could show you behind the curtain if you ever want to see it, that is what they're counting on. They're counting on that you don't really want to get to that growth zone. You want to be there for a little bit, but that you're going to want to get comfortable and then you'll spend some more money and do something else. It's just part of how it works. The difference in this course, in this community, is that we know there's evidence, thousands and thousands and thousands of people where there is real change. So I just want to point to that in the integrity of working and growing and developing yourself in a community that has that space with trainers who get that. So part of this process is needing a very clear vision, compelling vision. It's got to be big. a clear purpose. Like, why are you here? And I added trusted human connection, because trust is the capital of all. Trusting others, engaging that heroic means that all your trust issues come up. Congratulations. For some of you, it's time to stop keeping people out and learning to let them in and learning to let them be human. Survival strategies mostly fuel that fantasy. So you'll notice that top line, that top chord in the previous image, they're telling you that's how it works. And it fuels fantasy, and we love the fantasy because it relieves our suffering for a moment. Jean, maybe you could comment other things that fantasy do if you hit anything. I can't quite quote you right now, but there's also this element of fantasy it's a short-term high, but it doesn't get you to the long end of the journey. So it's not going to last. It's not going to sustain you.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is that it will naturally end in despair. So by definition, fantasy is not real. It's not possible. So anything that's not possible is going to end up being despairing, right? Because you give yourself to it, and it's not a real option. Like, oh, I was talking to somebody the other day that's like, yeah, I mean, they're not married. They were engaged. Their engagement broke off, and I was talking to the man, and he said, I just don't want to have to work as hard as my parents have at their marriage. I'm like, son, your parents have been married 37 freaking years. What fantasy do you live in that someday you will never, there's a type of relationship that you don't work hard.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking for that now. That's going to blind you to a lot of realities that are present, but also the beauty of what most of us call work, with that beauty that it actually unearths in the realm of human connection, even in the suffering, even in the hard parts. I mean, I'd rather suffer with my husband than anybody. But that's the game, you know?
Yeah, that's so huge. That's so huge. So the despair, we're actually going to show you a graphic about that. The despair is one of those things, like, we're avoiding despair, but it ties into this, because when do you know, like, you need to know what your despair, how it's serving even in this situation. Your despair is serving if we can stay with it. There's one of those things that we can look at through here. Where do you think despair lies on this chart? Because we want to have an honest look about where we are. So the first layer of this for everybody is it's up to them to change. Like, they got to get their act together. Or there's something, it's easier for me to see them than myself, right? It's easier for me. I'm like out here. I might not even be accurate, right? Because I'm perceiving it through my own lens and my own life and my own story and my own rules. So it's not even, it's possibly not accurate at all. Like, to be honest, I've been really wrong about some of those things I've perceived. But there is this thing of, like, I can see what you need to do. And that's usually where we start as we're maturing. And then sometimes there's a pendulum to that. And then I'm like, it's got to be me. There's something probably wrong with me, because this keeps happening. This kind of scenario with this person, I've noticed is happening and happening and happening, or it always ends up this way. So it's probably me. It's probably my story. If you've done enough coaching or therapy or anything, you got this one down. How many of you are pro at that one? You're figuring it out. The next one is also just tapping into that despair. Is like, I'm afraid nothing's going to change. So, Kate, you're asking me these questions, and I'm afraid nothing's going to change, and this is more pain than I want to experience. I did a session a couple days ago where I realized, like, even in that moment, like, we don't even know what we have armored up against. We don't touch that suffering often. So we don't want to touch the impact, our own impact, or even some of the unresolved stuff from our traumatic history. And so there's this space we're so used to numbing over it, performing through it, where that grit becomes an overused pattern of, like, that's just my preferred way of not dealing with things. It's my grit. I'm like, well, maybe part of it's grit. It's also numbing. So then I move up from there in this process of me embracing it and starting to move into acceptance, as I realize in this heroic process of Feed Your Hero, I can experience my pain and I'm still okay. I'm still here. I felt it and it didn't kill me. Maybe, right? Like from some of you are questioning that for a second. You're like, I'm not sure. I think if I fully feel it, if the tears come, it's like there's going to be so much if I open the door. How many of you have ever said that? You're like, if I start dealing with that, it's like the floodgate's going to open and I'm not going to be able to go to work or do my life. So yes, sometimes that can come in, but the reality is with the right support in that community, yes, you can experience, you're capable of being with it in a new way and taking action or moving forward or connecting. And when we move up from there, I own my purpose, my impact. So exploring your identity, your purpose, getting some feedback and some data around your impact and looking to see if that's the impact you intend. What kind of impact do you want to have? So this is sort of that process. But if you could pick where you are, going back to that relationship you chose, just make a note. Feel free to write it in the chat box. And here's in this space here, I also want you to look and just notice, like this is how I kind of match this. Like I'm very strategic about what program is right for who in this space. The beauty of the Feed Your Hero course is it will make any other course or transformational program that you do, it'll make it more effective because this is the one thing you have to know. I have coached a lot of online programs and developed them. I help a lot of trainers develop their curriculum. And it's always missing this. And so they really, even coming through one of my programs, they always end up here needing to have this conversation, which is why this course is so potent. Like you can't avoid this conversation. It's coming back to you. It's coming back because it will make everything work. It's like if you invest that time, it's going to open up so much else and give you so much clarity and freedom beyond. But if I look here, just to like match this out, and this is a little tongue-in-cheek here, but if I say it's up for them to change, I might have to do some grief work. So that might be a therapeutic thing. And I also believe coaches are very effective here. Moving up from there, if you're in that space of really wondering what's wrong with you, there's probably some identity work. We want to look at what's also going right. But doing this in a group, in a community where you have that counter feedback could be really helpful for you if that's where you find yourself. I'm moving up again, fearing nothing will change. Obviously, I was like, Hawaii vacation, like more pain than I want to experience. Absolutely. Maybe you need to see a doctor because also some of you you want to look at it holistically, make sure your hormones are on, ladies. If, be clear that there's not other factors that are happening. And also, entering in and looking at that one-to-one program will be really powerful as well. And a group program could work here too. But I just want you to own where you are and really match yourself. Moving up from there, the online course is awesome, self-guided or group. And also I would say when you're in that space, you're going to really enjoy live trainings. You could come into a live training at any point with GAP, but particularly here, it's a great openness when you're able to kind of come in and are ready to up level. Definitely positive. Also, I'll say, like in the bottom right-hand corner here, the power of one-to-one coaching cannot be dismissed. So I added this in here when Jean and I were looking at this earlier, and she was mentioning, one-to-one is potent everywhere. And I'm like, well, yeah, here's the statistic, just one statistic from IFC. But compared to just training, that's a really impactful thing to look at 86% to increase the productivity. So it's pretty powerful. So one-to-one could work at any time. If you're at that top space and you're already making an impact and owning your impact, I just want to say, maybe we asked you to pick one relationship today. Why don't you bring 5 people together and do this together? Like level up. Like who is it? Like learn this together, go together. If you're already in that space and you've done a lot of this earlier work, what would it take for you to make a bigger mark and to help others come along into that space? I'd also encourage you to pursue a coaching certification. And GAP has their Academy of Heroic Conversations in August. That will be enrollment, and those seats will go pretty fast. So just consider how wide of an impact do you want to make on this journey? What's your purpose in that? So Feed Your Hero is a 6-week course for individuals to deep dive and release their purpose, passion, and vision into the world. It will reignite that dream. It's going to reignite your hope, your vision. It's going to give you a clarity As you become to activate your agency, the first module is really CEO of you. So if there's any parts of your life, you're going to start out this course and you're going to like take a look at your entire life, and you're going to pick an area that you can really work through. But you're going to have this like triage of what's working and what's not working just as you start out, because you are the CEO. So it's going to help you to take a zoom out and look at your life in that way, and then work in a really close, a personal way also, to create that transformation. We talked about the door of despair, but I just want you to know this. And again, you can screenshot this and I can give you a copy of it if you want, or you want my slides. But here's how this starts. No matter where you are in the journey, if you're starting a business, starting a new job, there's a place at the beginning where we're super motivated. So the kinds of courses that we purchase and the level of investment on our relationships, like I want to learn about codependence, I'm going to buy a book, but I may not be ready to take myself on. Does that make sense? So there's like, I need a skill, I need time management skills. So then I'm going to get some tools. I need a strategy, I'm going to work on that. I want to become a coach, I'm going to work on that. And I'm in this learning mode, but it's external learning. But then something happens on my road to whatever it is I want to be in my journey of my business, this relationship. And that's where those doubts come in. So there's some kind of triggering event, or just time, because time is awesome. And my motivation and my fantasy didn't hold out, and I'm a little disillusioned. And inside of that, there's some different levels of exploration that we do. So I work on me, I work on my impact and my relationship with others. I do some emotional intelligence training, may look at strengths. I look at conscious communication, fierce conversations. And then as I'm in that training mode and I'm starting to understand it, it's still not until I go through that door of despair that change really happens. Like I can't avoid the emotion, the feeling, like all of the other stuff that's below the surface. Like literally that is the only door to get you over to a sustainable, free, high performance space. It has to go through the door of despair. I wish there was some other way. I've been researching that, I'll get back to you, but so far, 44 years old, have not found the shortcut. It's always been despair. I can't change it, right? Gene, come on. It's literally that. But the beauty that like comes out of that space. Like you think it's going to be dark and it's an abyss, and it's, you know, it's got like, it's spiky and there's heads on spikes and it's awful. You're going to go over that cliff. And the reality is, like, when you get in there and when we purge, or we just be with it, and there's connection there, the healing is immediate. And there's a certain process for that. But that is the process of this, like to get into that space, whatever that vision is for that relationship, the connection that you want to have. This is it. This is one way that I love to describe it. So here we go. Let's talk about this for a second. You can draw this on your piece of paper if you have a paper. We're going to actually fill this in. So the place that we're going from, so if your autopilot is creating some inner chaos, despair, and confusion, and you want to move towards living your stand intentionally and having that freedom and that joy and peace and connection in that relationship, we want to know, like, when do I want to do that? When do I want to do that? Like, what's that line of urgency for myself? So just think about that for a second. You can use this model to describe all kinds of things. So as you draw it, you'll be able to use it again. So I want to move towards that joy and peace, that heroic. And if I'm clear, like I want that right now, but I'm in this inner chaos right now. And then what I notice is inside of that urgency is there, maybe some fantasy, and that chaos is there, then I'm just dealing with it. So how are you coping with that inner chaos right now? If you're not moving towards taking action towards feeding your heroic, how are you coping? What does that look like in your life? You can fill out your own words. I put a few of mine in there. What does that look like? I'm numbing the void with work, overstudying, going or continuously studying. I had one of my clients say, she said, I've spent $90,000 in additional training since I left college. $90,000. $100,000 in more school and more school and more school. She's never ready to begin. And now she's 55. She still doesn't feel qualified. So there's that space of however we're numbing, it could be really with what seem like good things, but we're not really creating that impact that we want to have. We're just always getting ready to get ready. If someday I'm going to do that, but right now I'm in that chaos and I'm like, it's not even quite on my radar. So then I might also have to like compartmentalize and avoid the consequences. I don't even want to see what's happening over there. It's not even going to look. And I might procrastinate. I might notice that when people talk about it, I'm like, my brain goes blank. So there's like a confusion strategy. I don't know how to do it, a helplessness strategy. I'm not sure how to do it. All of that, you just notice it. Don't judge it, just it's there. It's a human thing. I might be caretaking or looking for people to caretake. You know, like always managing relationship in that capacity. I might be struggling with some depression, secret or otherwise. Might be waiting for people to reach out to me from that depression as a strategy for creating connection instead of going and creating a thriving connection. I'm sick. I'm in this space. You know, I have been sick in that space, and it was a strategy too to get emotional needs met. It's an identity. So the numbing, despair, secret addictions, even health crisis, and it just always it's always on the front burner. We never quite believe or have that hope that we can thrive. I know this is like, for some of you, just notice if any of those are what I'm describing, you know, fill in your gap in that quadrant. But also notice if you have any resistance to any of the words I'm using, and that's okay too. But I'd like you to journal it and just notice what your experience is of it. Just try it on. Don't have to agree. I'm not reading your mind, even though I know it feels like that right now. And then in that upper quadrant, when I do want to thrive and I want to live my stand intentionally, but I'm not taking action necessarily, like it's going to be a someday thing, that I'm going to be like a groupie around some of that stuff. I'm going to learn about it. Might be high performing, but I'm not quite in there. Showing up, but I'm not investing. And the investment is about engagement. It's not always money. Sometimes it's money, but there's lots of ways that we invest, lots of symbols for that. I'm avoiding conversations. Like I want the transformation, but I don't want to do the hard work that would require. I'm not sure how to enter into that. I might still have some blame stories. There might be some perfectionism happening. And I might also be price shopping. Like I'm going to do it, but I'm going to see the cheapest way to do it. Just okay. Just notice it. Which of those is true for you? And the question that I like to ask from here is, if this doesn't shift, what's the impact of not living your stand intentionally or discovering what your stand is? What's the impact of that? Nothing changes in 6 months. What will happen for you? Nothing changes. What will happen to them? What's going to go on in this other relationship? This one here, I want you to take a look at. So one of those things that you are deciding tonight or this week is Gap Community the space that you want to do? Do you want to go here with us? So in that space, like it has to be Gap. Like it's got to be Gap. Some of you are already there. And it's got to be now. If that's you, there's only 3 spots left for the group program. And I think Farah is in the group program that's here, which is awesome. And so there's 3 more spots available. And so that's for you. So you want to think about that. If it's got to be Gap, however, you're not sure if now's the time, I want to know, if you would talk to me, what's working about what's happening right now? What do you love in this conversation? What do you need? Like I want to talk to you about the line of urgency for your life. Because the clock is ticking on all of these relationships. And I wish my phone didn't ring every day hearing bad news for a lot of my clients, that things happen, but opportunities pass. And 2 days ago, a 40-year-old man died of cancer. So that's the reality. I'm in a position where I get to hear a lot of those stories, but it's not unusual. This is happening everywhere, right? So time is ticking. We don't have much time. So I want to know what you need and what your story is about your own life in terms of where that has to be if you're feeling it is doing it here with us. Below that, it could be any program, and someday I'm going to do it. So if that's you, not as a should, you should do this one with us. That's not where I'm coming from, but for you in coaching yourself, do a quick body check. When we're having this conversation, what are you noticing in your body? Do a quick emotions check. What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What do you think you need? And I want to invite you to reach out to me, and we can have a 15-minute call and talk one-to-one. And that's open for anyone here that would like to do that. So just what are you noticing? What are you feeling? And what's happening? I'm super curious about what that conversation is. And in that space, if you're like, yes, but this is weird, and Kate is interesting, and there's a lot of typos in her slides, and I know I'm dying. But I also want to encourage you, like if you're price shopping, or if you're downloading a bunch of things, or you're still in the free download thing, I have one for you if you want one. I have a couple really great ones. But I just want to encourage you to order the book. And so if you're sure it's now, it could be any program, dive a little bit deeper. Just go get the book. It's a very low commitment. It's on Amazon, on Kindle. If you want a hard copy, I like the hard copy. We have a publisher link on our course site, and I can give that to you. Definitely encourage you to do that. And I am, yes. Yeah, Karen, I'm going to tell you right now. Thank you for asking. So let's see. I'm going to see if this video will play in just a moment. But first, Michelle, can you give us a wave? Yes, there she is. So Michelle is going to be coaching beginning next Thursday, and it's a group program, and it is 6 weeks. It's a small cohort, a very small cohort, because we want to have substantial coaching and high impact every week. Michelle is a highly experienced coach. She is GAP certified and also has a couple other certifications. One of my favorite things about Michelle is that she's very aware of, she's been a relationship coach for a long time, but she brings in a somatic component too. So you're not going to just be moving the emotion. It's going to be very grounded, and the whole you can come to those group sessions, which is really profound. She brings a very unique insight into that capacity and looking at your whole wellness through this space. So that is self-care, but it's self-care like not the self-care you have understood self-care to be. It's an up level from that. So it's going to be a beautiful experience. And so her cohort will be starting, and there will be other cohorts in the future, but this is the only one live right now, and I have a wait list for the next one. And so jump on if this is you. And the beauty of this, and Jean, because it's a nonprofit, your courses are so much cheaper than mine, and so my people that are here probably their eyes are going back of their head. They're like, what's happening? But the course by itself is only $395, but we have a coupon for you for $100 off, so just $295. It comes with a 17-page handbook so that you can coach yourself. Those exercises you will be able to use your entire life with your children, with your spouse, with people you work with. It will work in corporate, and it will work at church, and it will work at home. It will work in your side hustle. So it's usable like literally everywhere. It's the highest level conversation of this stuff. I have 2 programs that I do before we even get to this. So it's a really profound experience. It's very complete. Inside of that, to do the group program with it, it's just 3 payments of $200. So you get to spread it out, so it's a little less right now, and in allowing you to kind of lean in. I would expect, even when you're doing 6 weeks with Michelle and you're going to work through it, you're about to have an experience this year. So it's not like, this is like, welcome to our journey together in our community, and we're going to be wrestling with this maybe your whole life, but we're going to keep coming back to this and back to this and back to this. This is how you coach yourself through the despair. This is how it is. So okay, let's see. I just love this picture. I'm pretending that's her dad, but I'm like literally the stories, the testimonies that come out of here, the relationships that shift, even though her dad didn't take the course, like there's a space of like the impact and the ripple is like so profound just from you doing you inside of this lens. It's going to have a ripple that I can't even quite articulate. And I do want to play that video, so let me see if it's going to let me do that. And there's your trainer, Jean, and we're going to let her speak after we watch the video. And there I am. Here's my screenshot this, or look at the bottom here. and message me, and you can have 15 minutes with me and we can chat. And let's see if I can just hit play on my video. Can you still see my screen? Do you see the video? All right. You can't hear it though, huh? Okay, 1 second.
Let's see if this is going to work.
Hi, my name is Neil, and I am a stand for community and love.
Hi, my name is Soren, and I'm a stand for inclusion.
Hi, my name is Placida, and I am a stand for courage.
Hi, my name is Donnie Davis, and I'm a stand for hope.
My name is Caitlin Bayard, and I am a stand for presence. My name is Tracy, and I'm a stand for possibility.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and I am a stand for hope when there is hopelessness.
Hello, my name is Ariana, and I am a stand for joy, for risk,
For family.
For freedom.
for possibility.
Hi, my name is Mick, and I'm a stand for courage.
I'm a stand for connection.
For hope, activation. I'm a stand for connection, courage, and love.
For life eternal.
For bravery. For freedom. For love and possibilities. Hi, my name is Kristen, and I am a stand for passion.
For presence with people.
For joy.
For courage, abundance, and forgiveness.
For sparking life and sparking true joy in this world. For love and healing. For freedom and hope.
Connection and love.
Encouragement. For love. Community. Love, courage, and joy.
For faith.
Hope.
And love.
And the greatest of these is love.
Thank you all. So there are only 3 spots left for next week, but you can do the individual track. And Jean, I would love to have you unmute and just greet. Thank you so much for your stand.
Welcome. Thank you.
Any questions for Jean or myself? Any takeaways? What are you hearing? What's rattling? And I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the recording so we can just talk intimately.